Dead in California, but alive in New Jersey. That was the status of 13-year-old Jai McMath after physicians in Oakland, California, declared her brain death in 2013, after complications from a tonsillectomy. Her family moved with her to New Jersey, where the law allowed them to lodge a religious objection to the declaration of brain death and keep McMath connected to life support systems for another 4.5 years. A group of neurologists, physicians, lawyers, and bioethicists is attempting to harmonize state laws surrounding the determination of death. They say that imprecise language in existing laws threatens to undermine public confidence in how death is defined worldwide. Ariana Lewis, a neurocritical care clinician, says, "It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Death is something that should be a set, finite thing. It shouldn't be something that is left up to interpretation." Since 2021, a committee in the Uniform Law Commission, ULC, a non-profit organization in Chicago, Illinois, that drafts model legislation for states to adopt, has been revising its recommendation for the legal determination of death. The draft committee hopes to clarify the definition of brain death. Some clinicians following the ULC discussions say that the idea of brain death itself is facing its greatest challenge since its conception in the 1960s. The outcome could have serious implications for intensive care units across the United States and might affect the availability of vital organs for transplant. And although few expect the ULC's recommendations to erase the idea of brain death, some observers fear that the doubts and narratives sown throughout the process could have a lasting effect on state laws and on public perception. Robert Truog, a bioethicist and pediatrician at Harvard Medical School who is not a voting member of the ULC committee, but has watched its progress closely, says, "I thought this would be an upgrade and it has completely fallen apart from that perspective. As soon as we talk about the deeper issues, the profound disagreement of some members of the committee become apparent, and you reach a standstill." Now let's talk about redefining death. Current legal definitions around the world generally allow for two types of death: when heart and respiratory functions stop irreversibly, or when crucial functions of the brain are lost. Historically, these two have been closely entwined. Stop the heart, and the brain is dead in minutes. Stop the entire brain functioning, and the heart stops beating. Such technologies, along with improved methods of measuring brain function, prompted the formation of a committee at Harvard University in Cambridge, Massachusetts, in 1968. The members developed a definition of irreversible coma or brain death that was controversial at the time. In 1981, prompted by a presidential commission on the topic, the ULC codified this form of death into a model law called the Uniform Determination of Death Act, UDDA, stating that a person can be considered dead when there is an irreversible cessation of circulatory and respiratory function or of all functions of the entire brain, including the brainstem. The Harvard Committee and the UDDA proved influential. Most countries in the world followed suit with their own laws adopting brain death. People who are in a coma, or who have unresponsive wakefulness syndrome, or locked-in syndrome are not brain dead. Not all functions of their brains have stopped, and some might be able to breathe without the assistance of a ventilator, show signs of wakefulness, or have intact reflexes. You can see a scale of consciousness. Severe brain injury can result in various diagnoses based in part on levels of cognitive and motor impairment. A determination of brain death in the United States means that all brain functions are irreversibly lost. Today, brain death makes up just 2% of adult deaths and 5% of childhood deaths in hospitals in the United States. Erin Paquette, a pediatrician and bioethicist at Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois, says that's because the physical appearance of a person who is brain dead often doesn't line up with people's concept of death. Hooked up to a ventilator, a person who is brain dead might look like any other individual in an intensive care unit. This can make it difficult for clinicians to communicate with family members about brain death, especially when the law lags behind scientific understanding. This happened in McMath's case. Although she never definitively regained consciousness or the ability to breathe on her own, she began puberty and had her first menstrual period, a sign that a small region of her brain called the anterior hypothalamus, which helps to control the body's hormones, might have been active. This realization prompted her mother to sue the state of California in a bid to erase the death certificate there because not all functions of the entire brain had ceased as the UDDA dictates. Using a strict interpretation of the law, McMath's mother might have been right, says James Burnett, a neurologist at the Dartmouth Geisel School of Medicine in Hanover, New Hampshire, even though it wasn't a sign that the girl would recover. The anterior hypothalamus, Burnett says, receives blood through a different supply from the rest of the brain, so some function might be preserved in a small subset of people who have been declared brain dead. McMath's heart stopped in June 2018, at which point she was issued a second death certificate. Her mother withdrew the lawsuit shortly afterwards. Meanwhile, clinicians have called for changes to the language of the UDDA, hoping to clarify which brain areas are relevant to recovery. Other countries, such as the United Kingdom and India, define brain death much more narrowly than the United States, focusing not on the entire brain, but on the brain stem, which is necessary for essential functions such as breathing, swallowing and maintaining a heartbeat. The United Kingdom goes one step further by not separating the ways that death happens. All deaths happen when brain stem function is lost. The outcome of the UDDA revision process is still largely unknown. The ULC could recommend leaving the 1981 UDDA intact. In that scenario, individual state legislatures could still vote to revise their laws in any way that they see fit, but it would be without an explicit recommendation from the ULC. If drafting continues as planned, the full ULC will vote on the revised UDDA at its summer 2024 meeting. I'm curious about your thoughts on brain death. Let's discuss in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the next videos.